In the last episode, we looked at the different boundaries of the land. And when the Israelites went in there to conquer the land, what were their borders to be, as well as how the land was to be distributed. But the question remains, what about the Levites, those that do not inherit the land or have a portion in the same way as the rest of the tribes, for they are not going to battle in the same way? Numbers 35:1. And the Lord said to Moses in the plains of Moab by the Jordan at Jericho. So we have a very specific location here mentioned for Moses receiving these instructions. Numbers 35:2. Command the Israelites that they give to the Levites from the inheritance of their possession cities to dwell in, and suburb pastures round about the cities. Walls you shall give to the Levites also. The Levites are not taking land, but they need places to live. So they need cities. And we're going to see here that the cities are going to be given to the Levites for them to own and operate. And some of these cities will be a little bit special. They will be the cities of refuge, as we'll see. Numbers 35:3. They shall have cities to dwell in, and their suburb pastures shall be for their cattle, for their wealth in flocks, and for their beasts. 35:4. And the pasture lands of the cities, which you shall give to the Levites, shall reach from the wall of the city and outward 1,000 cubits round about. 35:5. You shall measure from the wall of the city outward on the east, south, west, and north side 2,000 cubits, the city being in the center. This shall belong to the Levites as suburb pasture lands for their cities. So the Levites are receiving these different cities, and we see that there is a border around the city, beyond the wall, a place for pasture so that they could grow things, to feed the animals, to feed the cattle, to feed the flocks, so that they could sustain themselves. This is not the modern era of trade with trucks and trains and whatnot. So they needed to be somewhat self-sufficient, so they had to be able to produce these things on their own to some degree. A much greater degree than nowadays. So we see two different borders being described here. One we see is 1,000 cubits from the edge of the wall outward, all around. 1,000 cubits, about half a kilometer or 1/3 of a mile. And then we see that the total border is even further than that at 2,000 cubits, so double, so about a kilometer or 2/3 of a mile. I don't know if that's big or small, but it would scale with the size of the city. So as the city got bigger, I guess they would make walls that would be further out, and then the size of the city would be bigger as well. So maybe it would increase the area so that they would be able to provide food for the animals, to provide food for the people. Numbers 35:6. Of the cities which you shall give to the Levites, there shall be the 6 cities of refuge which you shall give for the manslayer to flee into, and in addition to them you shall give 42 cities. Israel is giving Levi a number of cities, and 6 of these cities are going to be special. They are going to be the cities of refuge, and they are going to be distributed across the lands of Israel in different areas, so that people, when they need to access them, they can. But they're not all just in one location. The purpose of the cities of refuge are to provide refuge in the event that somebody has committed manslaughter, that they've killed somebody unintentionally, that they can run to one of these cities, plead their case, and take refuge in the city. And they're safe as long as they're in the city. There's a little bit more to it than that, but we'll see more here in a second. Numbers 35:7. So all the cities which you shall give to the Levites shall be 48. You shall give them with their adjacent suburb pasture lands. 35:8. As for the cities, you shall give from the possession of the Israelites. From the larger tribes you shall take many, and from the smaller tribes few. Each tribe shall give of its cities to the Levites in proportion to its inheritance. So now we see that there are 42 cities that are going to be given to the Levites. And they come from the inheritance of the other tribes. And those that inherited more give more, and those who inherited less give less. So the same way that the inheritance is done, they are giving a portion to the Levites here. Numbers 35:9. And the Lord said to Moses, 35:10. Say to the Israelites, when you cross the Jordan into the land of Canaan. 35:11. Then you shall select cities to be the cities of refuge for you, that the slayer who kills any person unintentionally and unawares may flee there. So now we're going to look more at the refuge cities and how they work and how they operate. And it's quite fascinating. Numbers 35:12. And the cities shall be to you for refuge from the avenger, that the manslayer may not die until he has had a fair trial before the congregation. The avenger of blood, the redeemer of blood, is the closest male relative of the deceased. And they are to conduct vengeance. And so they are to track down and bring vengeance upon the person that killed their relative. And the city of refuge is a place that the killer can go to have safety and to have a trial, so that he is not simply executed by the kinsman redeemer. There's some more rules on conducting the vengeance that we'll see later on when it comes to how the refuge cities actually operate. Numbers 35:13. And the cities which you give there shall be your 6 cities for refuge. 35:14. You shall give 3 cities on the east side of the Jordan, and 3 cities in the land of Canaan to be cities of refuge. So now we see the distribution of the refuge cities, that there's 3 of them in the promised land, in the land of Canaan. So after they conquer it, they're going to have 3 refuge cities there. And then on the other side of the river, where the tribe of Gad and Reuben have set up, there's going to be 3 over there as well. I imagine crossing this river was probably kind of challenging, so it made sense to do it this way. Numbers 35:15. These 6 cities shall be a refuge for the Israelites and for the stranger and the temporary resident among them, that anyone who kills any person unintentionally and unawares may flee there. So now we see the distribution of the refuge cities, that there's 3 of them in the promised land, in the land of Canaan. So after they conquer it, they're going to have 3 refuge cities there. And then on the other side of the river, where the tribe of Gad and Reuben have set up, there's going to be 3 over there as well. I imagine crossing this river was probably kind of challenging, so it made sense to do it this way. Numbers 35:16. But if he is struck down with an instrument of iron, so that he died, he is a murderer. The murderer shall surely be put to death. Now we are going to have some different examples of murder with different implements. Numbers 35:17. And if he struck him down by throwing a stone, by which the person may die, and he died, he is a murderer. The murderer shall surely be put to death. 35:18. Or if he struck him down with a weapon of wood in his hand, by which one may die, and he died, the offender is a murderer. He shall surely be put to death. The examples we have here are interesting. First, we have the instrument of iron. So some sort of iron tool, maybe it's used for something else, but it is being misused and being used as a weapon here and causing the death to occur. We have the throwing of a stone, so ranged something that is not necessarily close and personal, maybe from a distance it's thrown, whatever, what have you, it leads to death. And then we have the weapon of wood, so something that is actually being made to be a weapon, being used as a weapon. So the examples, they seem kind of random, but they are interesting in their own way. There's probably something more to this. Numbers 35:19. The avenger of blood shall himself slay the murderer when he meets him. He shall slay him. So the avenger of blood, the man who fits that description, the relative of the person who died, can kill this man without offense to God, without danger to himself. He has the right of vengeance. So if he encounters him, he meets him, he can slay him, provided that they're not within the city of refuge. Because once they're in the city of refuge, the man is protected by the city of refuge. So he has to get him before he gets to the city of refuge and complete his case. I suppose if the guy does get to the city of refuge, then we have the trial, and then things can be a little bit differently then as well. And maybe they're going to determine that this was not an accident, that it was murder, and then he will be able to get his vengeance yet again. Numbers 35:20. But if he stabbed him through hatred, or hurled at him by lying in wait, so that he died. 35:21. Or in enmity, struck him down with his hand, so that he died. He that smote him shall surely be put to death. He is a murderer. The avenger of blood shall slay the murderer when he meets him. So here we have examples of premeditated murder, a murder that has been planned out ahead of time. And I think in our current modern culture, we look at this a little bit differently than just plain old murder. In many ways, it's a lot worse. And we see here that the avenger of blood, he is clear to avenge the person and to kill the murderer. Numbers 35:22. But if he stabbed him suddenly, without enmity, or threw anything at or upon him, without lying in wait. 35:23. Or with any stone with which a man may be killed, not seeing him, and threw it at him, so that he died, and he was not his enemy, nor sought to harm him. 35:24. Then the congregation shall judge between the slayer and the avenger of blood, according to these ordinances. We have looked at several different types of deaths in this chapter so far. We have seen murders, we have seen premeditated murders, and now we have examples of unintentional deaths. So homicides, that it results in the death of a person, but they were not caused intentionally. They were maybe mistakes or accidents or heats of the moment, and things escalated a little bit too far, and it resulted in the death of a person. And here we are looking at the judges and how they make their discernment on whether or not this was murder or not. And we'll see how they deal with unintentional murders in the next verse. Numbers 35:25. And the congregation shall rescue the manslayer from the hand of the avenger of blood, and restore him to his city of refuge, to which he had fled. And he shall live in it until the high priest dies, who was appointed with the sacred oil. This court case is concluded, and it has determined that this man has killed by mistake, by accident, what we would call today manslaughter, unintentional homicide. And so they restore him back to the city of refuge, and he has to live in the city of refuge until the high priest dies. Whether or not that occurs or not, maybe the high priest will outlive him, so therefore he has to live out the rest of his days inside this city of refuge. Or maybe it's the next year and he gets released and pardoned from the event that has occurred. So it just depends. He also would have the opportunity to simply leave the city of refuge. But if he does that, the avenger of blood, if he catches wind of it that he's left the city of refuge, he has the right to go and slay him. So he is safe if he's in the City of Refuge, but if he leaves, he can be attacked by the Avenger of Blood. And seeing as the land, the way that it was inherited and it went generation to generation, it's presumable that if he did leave, he'd almost have to go back to where he was originally. So it would be easy for the Avenger of Blood to find him. But if he left and went somewhere else, it might be hard to track him down. So maybe that would be the thing to do, would be to stay in the City of Refuge a couple years till the Avenger goes home and gives up on him, and then he can leave the city. And I mean, he'd certainly be taking a risk that, I mean, if word got around that he left the City of Refuge, maybe the Avenger would come after him again, but that's just how it would play out. He'd be taking his life in his own hands if he left the City of Refuge. Numbers 35:26. But if the slayer shall at any time come outside the city limits of his city of refuge, to which he had fled. 35:27. And if the Avenger of Blood finds him outside the limits of his city of refuge, and kills the manslayer, he shall not be guilty of blood. 35:28. Because the manslayer should have remained in the city of refuge until the death of the high priest, but after the high priest's death, the manslayer shall return to the land of his possession. So if he leaves early, he's living life at his own risk. But after the death of the high priest, he can return to his own land and continue about his own business. That he doesn't have to worry about being slain anymore by the Avenger of Blood. So that's kind of interesting. Numbers 35:29. And these things shall be for a statute and ordinance to you throughout your generation in all your dwellings. So God has set up this system here, and it is going to be used for generation after generation. I don't think they still use it in Israel today, but they did use it for hundreds and hundreds of years. So it worked good for them that way. Numbers 35:30. Whoever kills any person intentionally, the murderer, shall be put to death on the testimony of witnesses. But no one shall be put to death on the testimony of one witness. It's interesting here that we have the testimony of witnesses. That the witness's testimony is enough that the person can get the death penalty, but not on one witness, that there needs to be more than one. And I think some of that is because witnesses are unreliable. But if you could get a bunch of people to agree to the same thing, then it would be far more likely to be correct. Of course, there's also punishment for bearing a false witness, but that's neither here nor there. Numbers 35:31. Moreover, you shall take no ransom for the life of a murderer guilty of death, but he shall surely be put to death. So they were not allowed to take bribes per se, that the man couldn't just pay his way out of the sentence of being guilty and the death penalty associated with it. That was a problem then, and it is a problem now. How often is it that the rich escape from justice? Numbers 35:32. And you shall accept no ransom for him who has fled to his city of refuge, so that he may return to dwell in the land before the death of the high priest. The city of refuge almost acts like a form of punishment, that the person has to live there in this city, away from the land that they possess, away from their family and their friends. They are being punished for the slaying of this person, and to simply pay their way out of this punishment is not right. It's the same as what we saw previously, so that's probably why this is like this. Numbers 35:33. So you shall not pollute the land in which you live, for the blood pollutes the land, and no atonement can be made for the land, for the blood shed in it, but by the blood of him who shed it. So there was a ceremonial aspect to this, where the Israelites, they were not allowed to spare the blood of the murderer, the one that killed. And as such, they can't let the guy go back into the land and go about his business until the payment has been settled, that he needs to do out his time in the city of Refuge, or in the previous instance that he needs to be killed to satisfy the blood requirement. So that's what we have going on here.